Does anyone even remember Despicable Me 3? Considering this movie has the lowest rating in the entire franchise, and yes, that includes the Minion movies, it's not exactly uncommon to hear people say that they hate this thing. But what's the deal with Despicable Me 3? Is it actually the worst one? Well, I can confidently say that the first two movies definitely made a clear effort to at least have some sort of important theme throughout both of their stories, and like the third movie just didn't make that effort. It's like Universal Pictures saw how much Minion merch was being sold and was like, actually, screw these interesting characters with complex backstories. Let's just add more yellow dudes. I love yellow dudes. More bananas. I might be exaggerating a little bit. The truth is, if you're just looking for some goofy visual comedy, of course you can watch this and still be entertained, but that doesn't excuse the fact that this movie's writing is all over the place, a lot of plot lines go absolutely nowhere, and each character gets an equal amount of screen time, despite half of them being very boring with nothing of substance to say at all. How ironic that I'm talking about them right now. So, as I usually do on the channel, I'll be watching and recapping the Despicable Me 3 movie in full while completely overanalyzing the little things that don't really matter and giving my own opinion every now and then. There's a lot that happens in this movie and most of it is very forgettable if I'm being honest, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt to see if it's really as bad as people say it is. So grab your copy of Universal Studios' The Game for the Nintendo GameCube and let's jump into what some people call a chaotic mess, the one, the only, Despicable Me 3. Our adventure begins with the Illumination classic. A bunch of exposition cleverly hidden by a random guy directly telling us everything we need to know. Basically, there was this child actor named Balthazar Bratt. Back in the day, he was super popular and on TV all the time, but once he hit puberty, his show got canceled because no one in the world thinks acne is cute. Because of this, bro actually fell off and decided to become this evil villain in retaliation to the world because, you know, they like hate him now or something. If this seems kind of deep so far, trust me, it's not as interesting as I make it sound.
What are you looking at?
Why is he getting mad? Doesn't he want to be famous still? Isn't that the whole point? We then skip ahead to present time, which is when we see Balthazar being super evil and attempting to steal a giant diamond. I've always wondered why villains in movies always steal stuff like notable art pieces and like giant diamonds and stuff. Because like, how do you sell this thing? Does it actually have any value if you get reported the second you try to sell it to someone? Anyway, two important things you need to know about Balthazar Bratt. One, his whole thing is that he's stuck in the 80s, I guess. His entire aesthetic is based around 80s fashion, and every time he does literally anything, there's a nostalgic song that plays, which probably costs Universal way too much money to license, let's be honest. And two, he's voiced by Trey Parker, who's not only one of the creators of the show South Park, but he also voices many of its characters, one of which being Randy Marsh, and every time he speaks in this movie, that's all I hear. So,
playing a villain, I'm a noob. Heist music! That is vital!
So Michael Jackson starts playing and Balthazar hijacks the ship to steal a giant diamond. He's taking the guards out with his forever growing bubblegum. It's a little weird, just go with it. This is when Gru and Lucy are deployed to stop him. Turns out Gru and Lucy both continue to work for the Anti-Villain League, which was established in the last movie. Watch my video on that if you want a banger, it's great, just trust me. They're both going really fast in these speedy submarines. Some minions are following behind, and out of nowhere they end up hitting a clownfish underwater, making it lose one of its fins.
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
You might think this is a direct reference to Nemo because, you know, he's got like a fucked up fin. But I like to imagine it's actually a reference to Nemo's mother, who we all know just straight up dies. It's the minions who killed her, guys. Don't fact check it. The Minion Nemo theory about to be a crazy video. Look at this thumbnail. It's so white.
What did you call us?
Brucey, you know, Gru and...
Oh god, I feel like Grucy means something completely different nowadays. Anyway, Balthazar finally got a hold of the diamond and is about to get away, but obviously he has no idea who he's messing with. Because need I remind you, Gru has taken down supervillain juggernauts such as slightly overweight Mexican guy and Daddy's Money dorky guy. What a resume. I'm impressed. The two face off on the ship, which is now floating across the city due to the expanding bubblegum I mentioned earlier. They whip out some guns and eventually Gru shoots Balthazar point blank with a Glock and wins the fight. Obviously I'm kidding. There's no real guns in this movie, just nudity. The two fight for a bit to some more 80s music, which is when Gru straight up punches Balthazar in the face. But sadly, Gru hasn't worked out in a while, so Balthazar gets back up almost immediately and uses his magical keyboard weapon to blow all of Gru's clothes off. And yes, we see his butt. Balthazar is forced to run away, however, since the reinforcements showed up, but at least Gru secured the diamond, which is the whole point of the mission, right? Well, skipping a little later now, Gru and Lucy are at the Anti-Villain League headquarters, which is when we see Silas Ramsbottom again. I didn't have to look his name up, I remembered it from the last video. This part is kind of weird because Silas is talking to all the agents and is basically like, hey guys, I'm retiring right now, so here's your new boss. She's gonna be really annoying. Enjoy. Much like the last movie, the character of the Anti-Villain League boss is like super underutilized here, so like none of this actually matters. But congratulations to Silas Ramsbottom for having a goated name despite being extremely forgettable. The new boss, who I'm not even gonna bother naming because like she literally doesn't matter in the story, gets really mad at Gru because I guess he let Balthazar get away earlier. Even though he protected the diamond, which was probably more important, this new girl doesn't care and just straight up fires Gru in front of everyone. Because Lucy is a ride or die, she stands up for Gru and she gets fired too. How unfortunate. Yep, it's the Microsoft mentality. Fire everyone. Who cares? Let them go. Later that night, Gru and Lucy return home and are surprised by their 3 girls. The girls prepared some sort of late night dinner because they're goated and love their parents. But despite the wonderfully cooked food that everyone would love to eat, the dinner is cut short because Gru gets a phone call from a minion named Mel and has to go downstairs to check up on him. Once there, the minions are hype as hell because they just love this guy. They think he's Jesus or something. That is, until Gru gets into an argument with the minions about being a villain versus being a hero. The minions explain that they want to be evil again because being good is very, very boring. Just ask Hawkeye. I don't think this guy has ever smiled once. The argument goes on and on for a bit. The minions want to be evil. Gru wants to be good. They argue in the language that people tell me is called Minionese. I think I had people get mad at me for calling the minion language gibberish in the last video. People were letting me know this is a real language, which it's not, but it does exist in this movie, so you got me there, I guess. Anyway, Gru refuses to be bad again, so the minions straight up quit and decide to find a new leader to serve for the rest of eternity. For some reason, there's these 2 random minions that decide to stay. Not sure why they're the only ones, but yeah, these 2 stay with Gru. This is when we skip to a location in Paris, which you might recognize as the place John Wick fights in. Funny how they took that idea straight out of John Wick. It's a John Wick reference, guys. John Wick invented Paris. Anyway, I'm gonna skip through this next scene because it's kind of weird. Basically, this museum called in a diamond expert to check on the giant diamond from earlier because they think it might be a fake for some reason. The diamond checker is checking it out, but actually the whole thing is a lie, and this big guy who's meant to be the diamond expert is actually just Balthazar in costume. He takes everyone out with a Barrett 50 cal and then steals the diamond and runs away. Also during this scene, Balthazar throws a boogie bomb from Fortnite and the song Take On Me starts playing because it was released in the 80s, and that's like the only criteria for this movie's soundtrack. Skipping back to Gru and Lucy, and they're both pretty depressed at the moment after losing their jobs. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but the animation feels a little off in this movie. I don't really know much about animation, but as far as I can tell, it seems like the same style as the last 2 installments. It just looks different to me. I'm not sure why. Maybe I'm going crazy or something. The next day now, and Gru is outside in his pajamas because he's unemployed and probably playing World of Warcraft all day. This is when some random dude shows up and has some pretty important news for Gru. But in typical introvert fashion, Gru wants none of it, so I'm not kidding, he decides to blow this guy up, like, with an explosion. Oh my god. Well, that's definitely like 7 casualties right there. Despite being blown up, the random dude is still alive, and he lets Gru know that he and his family have actually been invited to a country called Fredonia by his long-lost twin brother. Gru laughs this off because obviously he doesn't have a twin brother. What is this, a show on TLC or something? But just to make sure, he decides to visit his mother and ask her if it's true. I'm not kidding here. Gru asks her and she immediately caves and admits that, yep, Gru, you have a twin brother. He's real. I guess when the mom and dad separated, they each took one of the children and decided to never speak to each other ever again. Honestly, that's probably got to be the worst way to handle a divorce probably ever. But with the news that the twin brother is real, the Gru family... Wait, what's Gru's last name, actually? Wait, his last name is Gru? You're telling me I've been calling this dude by his last name the whole time and never knew? That's weird. The Gru family accepts the invitation and arrives at their destination. You can tell Gru is all excited because he honestly just wants a friend, I think. This scene happens really quick. They enter the twin brother's mansion, and there he is, in all his glory. Oh god, he's got long blonde hair! That's actually hilarious. This is Gru's brother, Drew. So I guess his name is Drew Gru? I don't know. Don't think about it too much, I guess. He's instantly recognizable because he has long blonde hair. I guess Gru got the bad RNG in this family. Drew is super excited to see everyone, and he seems super genuine, honestly. He's exactly like Gru, except he's actually happy sometimes. Everyone introduces themselves, and then the show wastes no time in splitting everyone up. Gru and Drew are gonna spend some twin time together, while Lucy and the girls go visit the town and see what it's all about, or something. There's this entire subplot about how Lucy just really wants to be a good mother towards these girls, by the way, because she just doesn't feel like she is, for some reason. The girls never really show any coldness towards Lucy, so I don't really understand where this is coming from. Following the girl group, while they're in town, Margot accidentally proposes to some boy, kind of. It's complicated, just trust me, we'll get to it later. Edith and Agnes enter a bar because it has a unicorn on it, and Agnes loves unicorns. Not sure why they were let into this bar when they're clearly like 6 years old or something. Maybe the business is just really struggling. I don't know. While they're in this bar, some dude tells Agnes that there are real unicorns in the forest nearby. Agnes gets really excited for a minute, and then Lucy finally shows up and decides to kill everyone. During all that, Drew shows Gru what the family business is really all about. Turns out Gru's father was one of the greatest villains of all time. Like father, like son. How adorable. Sadly though, I think Gru's father actually passed away a while ago, so this is like super sad. The two talk for a bit, and they find out that the mother never approved of Gru, and the father apparently never approved of Drew. Again, these two are basically the same character, except for the hair. This is when we find out why Gru was invited here in the first place. Turns out Drew wants to carry his dad's legacy, so he contacted Gru to help him become an evil villain.
Teach me the art of villainy. No.
Actually, no. Get good, idiot. I'm not helping you. Gru doesn't want to be a villain, so he declines, but not before Drew tries to persuade him with a sweet, speedy car ride.
Holy moly.
Gru caves and gives it a shot, because fast car equals men happy. They ride around for a bit in a wacky cartoon way. Drew steals some lollipops halfway through, and then they both drive away from the police thanks to Gru's expert villainous tactics. This kinda sorta gives Gru the itch to be a villain again, but he still needs a little bit more convincing. Also, during these scenes, there's even more stuff happening elsewhere. We cut to Balthazar at one point, and he's being nostalgic about himself and talking about how he wants to destroy Hollywood for betraying him. That's like a whole scene that happens. There's also the minions who are just aimlessly walking around until they somehow end up on the stage of the Sing competition show. That's another Illumination movie that I haven't watched. I'm guessing it's like American Idol or something.
No.
Because they're randomly on stage, the minions sing for almost 2 minutes that I'll never get back, and eventually they end up getting arrested. While in prison, they surprisingly take over the whole place because they're alpha as I guess. I thought the minions' whole thing was that they serve people, but for some reason here they decide they want to be in charge out of nowhere. None of this really matters. The only thing of note really is that Mel, the leader of the minions, so to speak, realizes that being in prison kinda sucks a lot and misses being home with Gru. It's cool being a villain, but getting kisses on the forehead from Gru is a lot cooler. So just to recap real quick, we have the whole Drew and Gru being evil story, the Lucy wanting to be a mom story, the Margot getting engaged story, the Edith and Agnes finding a unicorn story, the minions being in prison story, and the Balthazar destroying Hollywood story. On top of that, Silas was replaced at the beginning for some reason, which might play into it, maybe. There's just a lot here. I'm not sure why they decided to spread themselves so thin, because honestly, I'm extremely overwhelmed. So Drew finally convinces Gru to be evil with him, except not really in the way that you might think. Basically, Gru agrees to go on a heist mission with his brother because he wants to steal the diamond back off of Balthazar and return it to the anti-villain league, thus hopefully getting his job back. Drew is super hyped about this because he doesn't actually know about the anti-villain league part. He just thinks this is an evil thing that they're doing together. See, that's why we have two random minions to stay with Gru. God forbid we have a scene without minions involved. The next day now, and we're gonna speedrun through these side plot resolutions, if you even want to call them that. The boy who wants to marry Margot gets rejected thanks to Lucy somehow. That way Margot can avoid getting married altogether, and Lucy proves her value as a mother or something. Edith and Agnes go in the forest completely alone. Remember, they're kids. This is weird. They find a unicorn and get really hyped, but actually it ends up just being a goat with a missing horn. It's all very epic. But back to the main story. This is when we skip to Gru and Drew, who put on these super weird black and white suits ahead of their planned heist. They get to Balthazar's house, which is basically a tower with a giant Rubik's Cube on top. The Rubik's Cube was actually invented in the 70s, so it's a little inconsistent with the whole 80s shtick that this guy's got going on. Doesn't really matter though, who cares? Gru and Drew climb the tower from the outside. There's this moment where Drew narrowly avoids death. It's super silly.
I'm okay.
During the entering of the tower, you can really see Gru shine as a villain. He knows all the ins and outs of sneaking into places, whereas Drew is just kind of in the way most of the time. Drew really starts to admire Gru for this, and it's actually kind of sweet to see. I don't know. I thought it was nice. Eventually, the two find the diamond, and it's actually being held in that moment by Balthazar himself. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I watched this movie, I really thought Drew was gonna be Balthazar in disguise. We just never saw them both in the same place at the same time, so I thought it'd be like a clever twist or something. We saw how good Balthazar was at dressing up earlier, and I thought that would play into a bigger part of the movie, to be honest. Balthazar gets up and walks away, so the twins chase him down, which is when we see Balthazar has a giant mech of himself straight out of Neon Genesis Evangelion. The two then get caught because Drew is stupid enough to chew some gum that was laying around, which we established earlier just grows forever. Thankfully though, it's also because of this gum that the two can steal the diamond back and get away safely.
Give me back my diamond!
That's just BM, dude, shaking it in front of him like that, like it's an Amazon gift card or something. The two are actually about to fall to their deaths before escaping, but Lucy shows up out of nowhere and saves both of them. We also get this one frame where Gru has huge eyes and looks scared for his life. I don't know why, I just find his face really funny here. This is when Drew finds out about Gru's true intentions to return the diamond back to the anti-villain league. Drew isn't too happy about it, but womp womp, what are you gonna do? Again, I thought this would lead to some crazy Drew villain arc where he ends up being the main antagonist the whole time, but no, that doesn't happen at all. During this scene, by the way, I guess the minions built some flying aircraft and escaped the prison and are now flying into the void, forever searching for a new leader. What is the point of this? So now the Gru family is ready to head back home because they got what they wanted. Lucy leads the girls to the airplane, but then, actually, a huge plot twist because Balthazar does use his Master of Disguise skills to dress up as Lucy and steal the diamond back for a second time. Gru ends up finding the real Lucy tied up in a broom closet, while Balthazar now has the diamond and the girls with him in the airplane to get back home. Because Gru and Lucy have no way to catch up to him, Gru decides to apologize to his brother Drew, and and I guess they kind of just make up right away. They both say sorry, and that argument from earlier basically means nothing because they love each other again. How cute. Balthazar is actually headed towards Hollywood to destroy everything. Gru, Drew, and Lucy are not far behind, and the minions also somehow get involved when they see Gru flying into Hollywood. They like randomly see him fly, so they decide to turn around and follow him, because at the end of the day, all they really want are those goddamn forehead kisses. So warm, so sweet. Balthazar is now in Hollywood with his giant mech that he's controlling. The girls are also in this thing for some reason. I'm not sure why Balthazar cares about them that much, but he does. Not the sign! No! Come on, dude. Hall. On top of putting expanding bubblegum everywhere, Balthazar also shoots his huge laser in the middle of the city. I guess he needed the diamond to power this laser or something. I think I missed that part, to be honest. So he's destroying the entire city now, but thankfully before he can get to it, Lucy saves the girls while Gru and Drew take Balthazar out. Gru gets one tapped in the head, so he needs to get revived, which is when it's all up to Drew to save the day. This is super epic. I wonder if he'll pull it off. I mean, obviously he does, because that's like what main characters do. Drew destroys the mech from the inside, and then Gru wakes up and fights Balthazar in a 1v1 on Nuketown. There's more 80s music that's playing because it's mandatory as per the official Despicable Me 3 contract. Gru steals Balthazar's weapon and just kind of beats him with it, I guess, really quick. The minions finally show up and pop all the bubbles so they don't actually expand forever. And I guess that's pretty much it. The day is saved, the town is saved, and the Gru family is finally all back together. We don't really see what happens to Balthazar. He just like flies away, I think. We then skip back home where we see Agnes finally calling Lucy mom, which is actually kind of cute. Gru and Lucy return the diamond, probably, although the whole anti-villain league thing becomes an afterthought in the end, like we don't even hear about them. Drew, I guess, lives with them now and has allied himself with the minions because they all want to be super evil together, but it's played off like in a playful way. So the movie ends with Drew and the minions flying off to go cause some mayhem, while Gru and Lucy plan on chasing them down since they're heroes again.
He's my brother. We'll give him a 5-minute head start.
Oh, they're back, dude. I just got chills. And that was the movie, Despicable Me 3. I had a lot of people telling me that this movie was extremely bad and one of Illumination's worst, but honestly, I kind of had fun with it. Don't get me wrong, it's a cluttered mess and there's way too much stuff happening at once to be a cohesive story, but it's also just a kid's movie and not that deep. So I can see why some people would put this on in the background while they do something else, and I can also see why most people enjoy the first two movies a lot more. Maybe the fourth one is better than this? I don't know. We'll have to see and find out when I watch it eventually. At the end of the day, I'm just a guy, and this is just a video I made by myself about a movie that I watched. That's it. But yeah, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and comment. Any interaction helps me grow, which in turn allows me to upload more often. Thank you to all my members for being members. You guys are the best and make it all worth it in the end. If you want to become a member, it starts at only $1, and you get to be in a super exclusive club of people who wasted $1 to support me. Also, your name will show up here at the end of all my videos. But seriously, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Paula Abdul scores this one a solid luscious blonde hair out of 5. And yeah, thanks for watching.